Sweet. Over to you guys.
Can you hear us now?
Yes, can hear you now.
Fab. All right, nice. Good stuff. All right. Hi guys. So today's workshop is going to be all about getting you ready for your pitches. So we've aptly named it Pitch Perfect. You can enjoy that fun cultural reference there. Just a quick overview of what we're going to be chatting to you about today. So we're going to do 25 minutes on pitch design. You guys have been given kind of a pitch template by Turn on Canva, which is an amazing like bedrock for jumping off from, but we're just going to run through some design principles, some ways to really make your pitch deck sing. And then I'm going to hand over to the lovely Brandon, who is going to do 25 minutes on storytelling and delivery. Brandon has pitched for his own business, so he's an absolute expert on this and will be able to give you some really valuable nuggets that you can use when it comes to that demo day in June. We'll then break for 10 minutes just so everyone can go get a cup of tea. And then we're going to do some kind of practice sessions in breakout rooms, safe spaces to just start to practice wherever you're up to with your pitches. We'll give a little bit more detail on that after the break. And then just next steps, what you can expect from working with your coaches for the next few weeks, what you need to be aiming towards to get you all ready for that demo day. So just a quick recap of where we're up to on the journey. You guys will already be aware of this. We did our first workshop. You should now have met with your coach maybe once, maybe twice, and be in the process of developing your pitch script and your pitch deck. Today is today's second workshop. You can then meet with your coach again once or twice ahead of demo day, which is on the 17th of June, 18th of June. I think 17th of June. Nice. Cool. So what are the objectives from today's workshop? Firstly, to understand what a final pitch deck should look like and how best to deliver it. So I'll help you with that first bit and Brandon will be leading on that second part. And then making progress on your pitch deck and script, leaving with a clear idea of what you need to work on for your next coaching session. Before we jump in, appreciate everyone's probably had a long day already, but we just want to recap, understand kind of what's been an important lesson you've learned from your coaching sessions so far that you can share with the group, any kind of nuggets of wisdom. Would love to hear from some of you.
I can share something. I mean, is it on chat or?
No, yeah, you can on chat or say it, whatever you like.
Yeah, so I think I learned like that it's important to add stats and stuff, so that I didn't have so many stats in my presentation, like enough basically to like bring evidence and stuff. So yeah, I did that and I think that was useful. And obviously like I learned a lot like, you know, other stuff. So yeah, but that's kind of something that I can highlight.
Nice. Yeah, that's a great tip. Really like grounds your problem in kind of a real problem, shows how many people it's impacting or quantifying that. People love a good stat. That's a great tip. Anyone else learn anything they want to share with the group?
We learned a lot.
Oh, is that someone? Ksenia?
Wanted to share that sometimes it's actually easier to get to the final line and final destination than it's how you see at the beginning. And that's what I got to understand through two programs, Ideas into Actions and Up Collective program. And the beginning of the idea was so much. There was so many things in it. There was like a cafe, a space for the theater. There was like really a lot. But then when we get to think about the actual idea and what is the change that you want to make and try to narrow it down to NPV, you can understand that you can actually start pretty much now with the resources that you have. And then everything that you need further down the line will build up by itself because you will be in a position of creating those opportunities and gathering this information and network, other than just thinking, oh, where do I get £10,000 in order to be able to afford the rent for 2 months of the business that might not give me any money back?
Yeah, that's a great point. A great point. I think we're talking about it as like land and expand. You've got so much energy and so many great ideas. It's just stage gating those. Yeah, amazing. Anyone else want to share?
Hi, I would like to share. I think for us, because we're multiple co-founders for, or like two co-founders for one project here called the Taga. And for me, the most important thing was having that clear ask, which is still a work in progress, but it does impact how we frame everything. So what is the story that we want to tell to get to that specific ask, which actually also conveys sort of our confidence in what we want to create and what we want to build in collaboration with others.
Yeah, amazing. That's a really great learning. Anyone else? Or I'll move on. Fab, cool. All right, so starting off with the first section of today's workshop, talking about pitch deck design, basically how you can best design your deck, or in other words, how you can make your deck look really pretty. Before we jump into some of those kind of design principles for your pitch deck, really you want to take a step back before you start working on it and think about some of these kind of pieces around why are you writing it, how are you writing it, when are you writing it, and who are you writing it for, or otherwise known as what is your goal, what's your format, how much time do you have, and who are your audience. So for your goal, you're really thinking about, you want to relay what your business is, what your audience, what you're asking of them. Do you want them to take action? Do you need something from them? You want them to support your business in a specific way? What's the format? So you're going to be doing these pitches on Teams. So thinking about that, thinking about the process. Time, you're going to have 5 to 7 minutes to relay your business idea, thinking about that. And then who are your audience? You know, thinking around who they are. Are they business people? Are they grant holders? And in that case, keeping that in mind for how you frame what you're saying. If there's one thing that I'd like you to take away from this section of the workshop, is keep it simple. You obviously have spent a lot of time thinking about your business and talking about it, but for the people on the pitch day, that's going to be the first time they hear about it. So just making sure it's simple from a slide design perspective, from how you relay that information. You can always VO more context through questions, but really just keeping everything visually super simple so that people can process in the short amount of time that you have to share with them. So what are some helpful design principles when thinking about designing your deck? Thinking about the purpose, thinking about using white space to draw the reader's eye, thinking about alignment, contrast, hierarchy, and consistency. So when we're talking about purpose, it's really thinking about, for each slide, what do you want your reader to take away from that slide? And what can be really helpful is, rather than just jumping straight into designing the slide on Canva or on PowerPoint, is writing down the key message that you want to convey. So thinking about kind of what do you want your audience to take away from that slide, and making sure that message is really clearly delivered. Yeah, it can be really easy to kind of think, I want to get everything on this slide straight away, and there's loads of information and the slide quickly gets really busy. But instead, just taking a step back and thinking, what is the key message that the audience, the person that I'm speaking to, should take away when they're reading this slide. This is not a slide example, but it's a very helpful example. Is the difference between this parking sign, where, you know, thinking about who the audience is, someone who's come to park their car. I don't know about you guys, but I'm immediately confused about when I can park my car here, when I have to pay to park my car here, and thinking about kind of redesigning that so that it's really clear to someone who's coming along when it's free to park there and when it's not. So thinking about, you know, making sure that your slide design, the purpose of it, the message of it is really well conveyed, rather than getting caught up in kind of having lots of information that distracts. Another really helpful design principle is thinking about the use of white space. So a lot of these are, like I said, you know, linked to this idea of keeping it simple. but using things like white space to guide your audience's focus and attention so that the slide goes from something like this on the left-hand side to on the right-hand side, where on the left-hand side, you don't really know where to look. Your eye is kind of drawn all over the place to the boxes. So really thinking about, like, is there a way that you can use white space, gaps, to emphasize your point further? Or another example of this in more of kind of a slide design format is the difference between this one and this one. You're still conveying the same message, but you're taking out some of the content and using white space to help really guide the reader's eye. And then alignment. This one is not rocket science. I'm sure you guys will do this naturally. You know, you think a lot about your business, you care a lot about your business, so you want to make sure that everything is done to a really high standard. Again, just so the audience can focus on the content and not get distracted by whether or not boxes on the page are aligned correctly, or if there are kind of inconsistencies in how it's presented. This is a nice slide of kind of overview of what we do at Founders Intelligence. As you can see, you know, all of those headers are in line, and it just shows kind of a level of professionalism and that you've taken care over your pitch deck so that people know that you're, you know, taking care, attention to detail as an entrepreneur with your business as well. And then contrast, again, similar to white space, it can really help guide your reader's eye and create emphasis and tell you what's important or different on the page, especially when you're, you know, coming with a novel idea as an entrepreneur, being able to use kind of contrast to really convey a key point, what makes you different in the market, what's your USP, and allowing your content to stand out. And then hierarchy. So what's the most important element of your slide? Guiding the eye and making your slide impactful. Good example here is kind of how the eye goes from reading the center line towards the bottom. So really thinking again, you know, what do you want your audience to take away from the slide, and how can you use the design to guide and enhance that? And then consistency. So you might or might not be at a stage yet where you have a logo or a brand identity for your startup. It's not common at like a very early stage, but thinking about how you can make sure that throughout your deck, you know, you've got consistency, you've got the same format, the same font, same font sizes, so that there is a clear kind of consistency throughout the deck. Good example of this here, just where you can see, like, for each of those different groups, they've used different colors, different ways of reflecting the brands. And then just a couple of tips, keeping short, sharp bullets. It can be really tempting when we're writing about our idea to go into a huge amount of detail, again on the slide, making really long sentences for each bullet point. But actually, you can just make those really short and snappy, try and make them as short and snappy as possible so that the audience doesn't get lost in the sentence and they really take away that key message that you're trying to convey. Again, using kind of bolding certain elements to make sure that the really important bits aren't lost. And images, we really encourage you to use images. You know, they bring your story to life, but making sure that they're relevant and that they work with those kind of other principles of hierarchy. Again, the message that you're trying to get across, so they don't distract the reader. They keep them focused on what you're trying to communicate. And then just coming back to this again, I think just keeping it simple is the most important thing. It will allow you to convey your message. And make sure that the people listening to your pitch are really clear on what your business does, what you want from them in a visual way. Over to you, Brandon.
Thank you, Anna. And I'm going to now talk a little bit more of what you need to take off the slide. If my first bit of advice is probably think about your story and your slides before you actually get down and start making your slides. And so this next part, which I think we're running ahead of time and we'll probably continue to do that, is going to be a bit more about that storytelling and how you can structure and deliver your pitch to them. Next slide, please, Anna. So there's a fantastic author that I'd highly recommend reading some of the work who talks a lot about storytelling called Robert McKee. And his sort of saying, and I think his belief, which I very much agree with, is this idea that storytelling is the most powerful way to put ideas into the world. And so in pitch day in a couple of weeks' time, when you're thinking about putting your pitches together, my one message to you is turn it into a story. Humans throughout history have told stories, and it's going to be the way that you can hook and you can sort of tell your story further in the session. Next slide, please. So what makes a good story? I'm going to get you guys to all put in the chat, if we can begin with, what's your favorite book or movie, or even a story told by a friend that you remember and that you always come back to as thinking, oh, that was a powerful story. And you can put it in the chat, or if anybody wants to say it out loud, I'm happy to also take people saying them out loud too. Yes, I've got a hand.
I would say it's about the emotions that you bring and how relatable it is to you.
What's your specific one that comes to mind when you think about that?
Well, recently, okay, it's gonna sound weird, but I'm from Ukraine, right? And there is a great news that happened on the 1st of June, where Ukrainians created a spider web operation where from the inside of Russia they bombed 40% of the planes that could be used for the nuclear weapon bombing. And for me, that was a great news because first, it's relatable to me. It's about my country. It's about how the progression of the war gonna go, which way. And it brings the emotion because it's finally like a little sense of victory where you get all the bad news, and then you have something to celebrate and something to be very happy about. And that brought like such a huge emotional response from me that I will remember this forever and it will definitely be in history books. So I would say that maybe comes to mind. Maybe not the best example, but
And
that's
I
the only
think it
thing that I
also,
remembered.
no, I think it's a fantastic example. I feel like it also has like a bit of that mystery of how was it done, that sort of like almost espionage-esque, story that you go that, with them smuggling all of these drones into the country. Um, Thank you for the message in the chat. I like that. Yes, very much so. Movies have the trailers. Trailers grasp the best scene and climax the whole movie in less than 2 minutes. My critique is sometimes I feel like they spoil too much of the movie that's there. But I think that it's some of the best thing that's out there is to hook into a trailer. I don't know which one of you got first. So, Salma, do you want to go first?
Okay. I think also a story that has like something that captures you from the beginning, like something that has like like an element that grabs the attention. It could be maybe a personal story, or it could be something that would just grab the reader's attention. I think that's important. And I don't recall a story, but I
Mhm.
recall because like something that I've been using recently is like Malala's speech when she had the Nobel Prize, and she had that story about what does her name mean. And like she said, like my name means so and so, but this is how like my grandfather calls me, and this is what my brother calls me. So like something which is personal was really powerful.
Yeah. And she was fundamentally telling her story. That's the story that she was telling that was there. Thank you so much. Do we have any more?
I can share. I mean, the first thing
Yes.
that comes to mind is like the Disney stories or even like the, science fiction, something like that. So it's like Pinocchio comes to mind because, he turned into a real boy. And then like there's the moral of the story, or like Harry Potter when he was in that room, but then, he was a wizard. Like there's this change of events or like a turning point that makes the story far more exciting for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think the interesting thing about Disney is I feel like a lot of the original Disney movies were actually inspired by even older stories. So they weren't even originally Disney stories. But I do think that there's a real sort of powerful thing in how much that they bring to life. So thank you for sharing. I see some bits in chat as well. Can we put our story in 5 words? That would be the real challenge. We used to also, some of my friends sometimes we like to try and convey a message in 1 word, which is the ultimate story. Um, has anybody else got any movies, TV shows to share, or any stories?
اینجا
Nope.
بگیم یا تو
Oh,
اونجا؟
Maru, did you have a story to share?
Should I say it here or in the pitch?
Oh, well, if it's your story, save it for the pitch. But if you've got a favorite movie or
Yeah.
a book, then
Actually,
now's the time.
yeah. Actually, I was thinking of it at the moment because it is something quite new that comes up. Although we talked about it, I think in the last workshop, as you
Mhm.
asked us, I remember that what is a story or a book recently you have liked or
Yep.
yes, exactly. Actually, I'm just going through the Lost again for the second time. So, and this time it is just interesting. I can say surprisingly, I find my business exactly resembling the same story as I'm just helping my passion, my vision is to support refugees to find their own self back in and go over their language barriers and communication barriers. As far as you know, that this story shows me that some people are get lost, but they are just coming through. They are not lost. They are just coming through another story, a new
Yep.
version of their life coming up. So it is exactly like having a migration in life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I like it. I think it draws, when you speak about the different stories and the different types as well, when you all speak about that, it draws a sort of concept that I was taught early on, which I find fascinating. And when you start watching lots of TV and films and things like that, you'll realize that actually out there, I think there's like 7 basic plots of stories that exist in the world, and every story is just a different version of that. And so I'm looking in the chat, Lucas. I even feel like the Liverpool Football Club story will also fit into one of those 7 stories. And so I think that's fascinating. Does anybody else have anything else to share? If not, we shall move on. Great. Let's go to the next slide then, please, Anna. So, in one of my sort of classic pulling out one of the 7, the one that I'm going to focus on today, which I think is most relevant to how you guys are going to tell your stories, is the hero journey. And so I think we're going down the sort of 6 steps, and I'm going to quickly talk you through the 6. And I think these are really, really good constructs of how you want to pull together your pitch and your story and tell that. One of my firm beliefs, and I think quite in the chat there was the suggestion of putting it in 5 words. I think one of my key things that I'd like you guys to test today, but also test going forward, is being able to tell your story in 1 sentence in under 30 seconds. Because I think if you can start that in a grounding point and you can get your story down there, you can then evolve that upwards to the 5, 6, 7 minute pitch that you're going to do in a couple of weeks. So stage 1 of the hero story is setting the scene, hooking the audience. So in your case, that's introducing yourself, a little bit about your story, what's your personal sort of gotcha, what got you there, and what brings you to that stage today. We then want to sort of move in, build a bit of tension. What's broken today? So what's broken about the status quo? Who is that issue affecting? And start to paint a picture in that person's mind, not just on your slides, but you want them to sort of visualize it. What's that problem? And ideally, you connect it to a problem that they might have in their life. So one that they can sort of relate to. And then the next is, I would say, creating that climax, that sort of big moment. We talk about beginning, middle, and end, and you can kind of see that the climax is the big middle. So that's looking at why there's a sense of urgency to act now. And for us, and I think I can't remember who mentioned it earlier, mentioned about in their coaching about bringing sort of a key insight or some key data forward. We love that, and we do that a lot in our work, and I think that will be impactful, even if it's not your own data point, to find data points out there that prove what you're doing has value. And also to demonstrate why now, why is this important today, and why maybe couldn't this be done 6 months ago, or wasn't it done 6 months ago, and why shouldn't we wait another 6 months or 12 months to do it? You then want to go in and explain a little bit more about the solution. So you sort of hook them in the why and why they should act now, and then you're going to provide them with that sort of like satisfying moment when you're providing them a solution. And then penultimately, you want to sort of talk a little bit about your progress and impact. So yet again, if you've got any numbers you can point to, that's great. I was talking to one of my coaches about one of the great things that they've done is pulled a team together, and actually maybe the progress and some of the impact you can have is just putting the sort of people that you formed around you on the screen. But it's also just telling, I think, in your own way, why you feel like what you've done so far has been impactful. And so sometimes that can be pulling out a story. It doesn't all need to be quantitative numbers. And then finally, you want to deliver sort of an ask. So you want to go back, you want to tell them, overlay that sort of vision, but then you want to fundamentally land them on something that's like going to make them see what they can do to help you go next. And so for me, it's going up that sort of pathway, coming back down, and sort of landing that message there. Next slide, please. So to pull out 3 big P's that we like to use here at Fans Intelligence that are for a perfect pitch. They are phrasing, pace, and presence. So starting with phrasing, this is all focused on the language that you use. And I'm going to go through in a couple of examples of how you can use some language to do that. And so for me, that's about putting some emotion into what you're saying, engaging in what you're saying, and making sure that the language that you're using is having the most impact and landing with people on a personal level, not just on like a corporate level. The second one is pace. So I think this one is actually from 2 perspectives. I think sometimes when people are nervous and they're or they're unprepared, there's an LLC to talk really, really, really quickly, and you can sort of speed through everything, and you can be done with your 7-minute pitch in 3 minutes. But at the same time, you want to have a nice pace in your script originally, that it doesn't feel like you're dragging on the story. You want to sort of give people a level of satisfaction throughout, and you don't want to be drawing out something that people are clocking off and getting bored, which I hope none of you are doing with Anna and I today. And the final one is about presence. I think you guys actually have quite a superpower with doing this online in a couple of weeks, as I'm having today, which is that hopefully you can be in a really nice, comfortable place in your home or somewhere you can pick. You can take a time to sort of like breathe, take pauses, and project your voice. And also, because you're not stood on a stage, you don't necessarily have to speak really loudly. You can speak at your normal level of voice inside that you would be if you were speaking to a friend or a colleague. And so my big message to you is you want to stand out on the screen, which is harder to do than I'd imagine in a room. But at the same time, you want to make sure that you're pacing yourself and taking those pauses that you need. One of the tips I also gave to one of my mentees was to have props. I think sometimes, if you're trying to illustrate and tell a story and you're trying to feel more comfortable, pull out a prop, gives you a moment to pull it out, to take a moment to breathe, for the people to take that in, and sort of move onwards with that. Next slide, please, Anna. So focusing on that, like, phrasing and that sort of keeping simple, I wanted to pull out a couple of examples of ones that the teams used before in telling that. So to give you this first example, we're going from, which is going to sound super technical, and I'll read it out, and hopefully that shows you just how technical it sounds. We operate a circular logistics platform that leverages hyper-local redistribution to mitigate food insecurity across underserved communities. Now, I'm going to be honest, I do not understand what half those words mean. And I feel like the second you say that to an audience, you're going to completely lose them. So this converts fundamentally, and this is what fundamentally it's trying to say, is every night restaurants throw away food that's still perfectly fine to eat. Meanwhile, only streets away, people are going hungry. We bridge the two. So what you're doing there in a very simple statement is you're stating the problem, and then you're placing yourself in the solution. So you're saying there's all this food that's left to eat, there's people going hungry, we sit in the middle and help facilitate that. Next slide, please. The next one, and I think this is actually quite an even more common mistake that people make when they're writing things. Our community provides all the necessary information in quite a simple way. That is a perfectly fine way to say something, but it's not really going to hook and engage people into what you're saying. So the alternative we'd go for is something like, our community makes you feel safe by giving all the information you'll ever need. So you're turning it from a, yeah, I like that too. It's also too general. You're turning that sort of like, I don't really understand what you do, to I understand the sort of emotional connection and why importantly you connect in with what we're doing. Next slide, please. And then this final one is a little bit more, almost as well, to your point in the chat about being too general. This is we're a social enterprise focused on education access. I started my company to address systemic equality. And so what we're doing here is bringing your audience in so they can think about the sort of solution from a different perspective that isn't just women or a social enterprise. So the two examples we give here is, imagine you're 12 years old and every morning you have to walk 6 kilometers to get to school. You're instantly able to think back. Everybody in the room will be older than 12 years old, so they can all think back to when they were 12, and they could probably all think back to a time that they had to walk 6 kilometers. So that instantly tells the story of what you're solving, which is that 6 kilometer walk that all these 12-year-olds are going to. And then the second one, which in some ways follow up to this would be some sort of facts, would be, what if I told your postcode could predict your future? And so this is instantly sort of bringing the idea that postcodes and where you live and where you grew up systematically is connected to how well you're doing in the future. And so that tells the story much more in a much better way, while also encouraging your audience to sort of partake and come in to the conversation. The next slide. So now we're going to take sort of, I think it's about 7 minutes long, to actually look at an example pitch. I know a lot of you have had questions around like, well, what does an actual... I hope we all enjoyed that as an example. I hope that shows to you, and I think it showed to me the sort of, hero's journey we were talking on, the sort of pathway that it brought it through. As you'll see, the slides were not necessarily polished. There was a few typos, but fundamentally what sold her and, made Valerie's pitch successful was telling her story, bringing that story to life. And what I really liked about it, and something I really took away from the end, was she connected it to herself, but also fundamentally connected her story into what outcomes that would mean. So something that really resonated with me was there, and Lucas highlighted this was the draft, and a fantastic draft, shall we just say. But I think it's about how it connected that story to £250 helps one person, and so I think that was really what was there. Emotional, relational, powerful, and meaningful. I completely agree. Yeah, apparently we don't have the recording from the demo day to see those slides. Yeah. I think the slides are sure were that, but even in some respects, those slides conveyed the message that they needed to. And Anna might dislike me for saying this, but I actually think the story is way more important than the slides, and you can, save some bad slides with a great story over the top. Next slide, please, Anna. So just to sum up a little bit in summary for sort of my section here, you've got your three P's. So you've got your sort of phrasing, your pace, and your presence. So using that emotive language, as we saw in that video, having a good pace, even if it was by accident, you'll notice that between every slide, Valerie took a moment to think and stop and continue. But it never felt like, you know, it was dragging along. And then present, even though this was a draft, I think she was there, and there was there. Something that I want you to guys not be fearful of doing. Obviously, we are on a screen, and we're going to be talking through that. Feel free to use notes. Nobody has to learn it all by heart. Whatever's going to make you feel comfortable on the day, and to make you say, "Oh, I feel like at the end of the day, if I've forgotten what I'm going to say and do that, I can rely off of my notes that are on the screen in front of me." They can be full notes, so they can be everything that you want to put in, or they can just be brief notes. So often I'll write notes of a couple of key points that I want to land, and then can work my way around those on that. The other big important thing, which maybe should be the fourth P, arguably, is practice. And so you can practice with your coach, or you can practice with yourself, or practice with friends and family or other people in your team. The key is going to be the more and more you deliver this, and you can tell I'm a bit rusty today from delivering this. You can practice. And Lucas is shouting in chat, practice with the turn team. So it seems like you guys have got fantastic opportunities to practice with each other, or also the turn team more broadly. And then the final point here is that your pitch should be between 5 and 7 minutes. If I know I've got to fill a sort of 5-minute or a 7-minute pitch, I would probably be targeting for when I'm doing my practicing for it to hit about 6 minutes, to give me a little bit of breathing room on the day, to have a little bit of a break. If I need to take a moment to pause, that it doesn't then shoot me over the 7 minutes. I think often if you think about 7 minutes and you frame it as like, oh, I'm going to talk for 7 minutes, you'll probably end up talking for longer than 7 minutes. So, you know, go for a 6-minute, 5-minute pitch. Give yourself some flexibility in the room to stop for a drink or to have a pause, or, you know, to stumble or two, because it all happens. So yeah, that's been myself and Anna's little bit around presence and pitching your slides. I think we are going to take a 10-minute break, which we're 5 minutes ahead of schedule. So I think that's going to take us to 10 to 7.
On the 17th of June. And obviously, any questions you have, anything we can help with, anything your coach can help with, just ping them an email, and we're here to support you. That's everything from our side. I'll hand over to Lucas.
Amazing, thank you. If everyone could just join me, I popped into a couple of sessions and I think it sounded very like some really good feedback and discussions and stuff. So yeah, amazing, great to see, and just thank you so much to everyone from the Founders Intelligence team. We've got Brandon, Anna, Irene, Vicente, Ria. Is she still on the call, Ria?
She's just had to pop out.
She's had to pop out, but everyone, and obviously there's Seb behind the scenes as well, and everyone over at Founders Intelligence, thank you guys so much. Everybody can just join me in saying thank you. Yeah, look forward to hearing more about these sessions, and make sure you book in some time with your Founders Intelligence coach to keep working on your presentations. I'm just going to very, very quickly, last couple of minutes, just talk about a few last things. Can everyone see my screen okay?
Yeah.
Have I got this big?
Yeah.
Have I got big? Okay, there we go. Great. So, oh my god. Okay. Oh, that one jumped ahead. Why are we doing all of this? I'm sure you guys all know now. It is the demo day, Ideas into Action demo day on Tuesday the 17th of June from 6 to 7:30. If you haven't already signed up, Founders Intelligence guys, for you as well, please scan this QR code and do sign up. It helps with numbers. Last time I checked, we have 135 people signed up already. We're going to be going into breakout rooms where there'll be 4 people in each breakout room presenting. So very quick maths, what's that? 30, I think, in each room, if we were to average it out. There's potentially 30 members of the public from potential partner organizations, potential funders, potential supporters across the sort of social impact space, charity, refugee and migrant sectors as well, that are coming to listen to you. So we've got 2 weeks, that's literally 2 weeks to go, and the program will be done with the Ideas into Action Demo Day. So we're very excited about this. Please do sign up, and also share this with your networks. Share this with people that you want to be coming to the demo day as well, so they can come and listen to you. You would have got a WhatsApp from me. If you could please send me a photo of yourself on WhatsApp. That'd be amazing. A nice professional headshot, because we're going to be using that. We're building a website which will feature you and your social enterprise as well, to be able to send to supporters afterwards, so they can connect with you well after the event as well. So please do send me that. I'm going to be asking for a lot of stuff in the coming days, and I would just appreciate if you can just send it to me whenever you get a moment. But I will be messaging you probably tomorrow and Thursday, asking for some descriptions, links to any social media you might have, websites if you have them, LinkedIn's, any brands that you might have as well. So I will be in touch very soon about all of that. But one great way that you can actually retain you can get people to engage with your asks is by coming to our Turn Skills session, where Sam is going to be teaching you how to make a link tree. Now, this is a very simple website which you can link with a QR code like this, but basically a link tree is effectively something that you can put all of your information about your business or about you. So you could have your website, your Instagram, your LinkedIn, you could have like an email address, all of that stuff in one place. Very, very easy to do, and something really important for the demo day, so that people can engage with you after the demo day. The ask is so important, but as important as the ask is a vehicle for people to be able to engage with the ask. If you don't give them that, they're not going to be able to. Okay, so please sign up for this. Sam's going to be doing that, and Oksana, that is the session on Thursday, which I think will be really, really useful for everyone for the demo day. So please scan this QR code and sign up. Now, we thought it was important just to mark the end of the program. Now we finished the workshops. Congratulations, everyone, you made it through what has been 9 fantastic workshops. But we want to just mark a small graduation ceremony. This was very ad hoc, and we decided to hold it instead of on the same day as the demo day, so that we don't get Zoom fatigue. We're going to do it next Wednesday, the 11th of June, from 6 to 7. There's nothing to present, there's nothing to prepare or present. There'll be an opportunity to share some words, but safe, from Results CIC and myself and Bija Saholo. Hormoz will be there as well, Jane. We're just going to be taking a moment to celebrate you guys and to say, well done. You know, you've all stayed in the program, which is incredible. And that's testament to yourselves and how much you want to start your social ventures. So we want to just take a moment before the demo day to say congratulations, to say well done, and to just share a few words of wisdom, hopefully going forward, and about next steps, about this is the end of Ideas into Action, but it's not the end of journey, maybe with Turn or with Result, and how you can stay involved with support that will be available. Some very exciting new services that are launching at Turn come September as well, for alumni of Ideas into Action and organizations that are looking to grow. So we are excited about this. If you can't make it, and I know some of you can't, that's absolutely fine. We will be sad to miss you, but it's fine if you can't make it. Please just give us a heads up. But hopefully we'll see a lot of you there next Wednesday, the 11th of June. You should have all got an invite from me on Google. And finally, practice your pitch with Bija Saholo or with myself. You have your candidate intelligence coach, you have family and friends, and you have Bija Saholo, and you have myself. These are brand new QR codes made with special times to basically, we'll send these out in WhatsApp tomorrow as well, but please book in with us. I had a great session today with somebody practicing, and I want to have more, right? We are here to support you and to help you both with the deck, but to give you really good feedback as well on how you're presenting and things like that. It started today, but it can continue and it should continue as well. This is a great opportunity as well to practice actually being on Zoom and presenting on Zoom rather than in person, clicking through your slides as well. All right, so please do scan these QR codes and book in with myself and Mitch Zahono. I hope to see a few bookings maybe next week, maybe this week. But we are here to work with you, and all of our work is basically leading up to the demo day now. Okay, so please do book in. And I believe that is it. That's it. This is the last slides. Okay, so that's it from me. Just want to say well done to everybody finishing 9 workshops, finishing the program. We're nearly there. Got a graduation next week and then the demo day. And once again, a massive thank you to Profound Intelligence for the 2 fantastic workshops and all the coaching that's going on in the background as well. Thank you so much, guys. And yeah, that's it. If you have any questions, you know where I am. Have a lovely evening. And that is bang on 8 o'clock for the last workshop. Good night, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Safe travels, Esan.